If I may have your attention, please. We have a quorum here right now, so I'd like to get started. We'll start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. So if you'll please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Okay, we'd like to have a moment of silence in memory of the town meeting members who have passed away since last annual town meeting. Paul J. O'Brien, town meeting member, Precinct 3. He was also in Precinct 5, too, at one time. Joseph C. Lux, town meeting member, Precinct 2. Paul G. Koski, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Robert J. Chapin, town meeting member, Precinct 3. Robert B. Newcomb, town member meeting, Precinct 3. He was also moderator, if some of you people can remember him. Richard G. Hunt, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Matthew Smith, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Richard Hastings, town meeting member, Precinct 4. Douglas E. Flink, Sr., town meeting member, Precinct 5. Ronald R. Valerio, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Joan P. Baker, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Peter M. Quinn, town meeting member, Precinct 2. He was also a town meeting member in Precinct 4 at a different time. And Alice M. Ray, town meeting member, Precinct 1. Do we have a moment of silence? Thank you. Article 1, to hear the reports of the Finance Committee. Oh, I forgot about my little reminders that I had here. Tonight we will electronically be voting, which will register the votes quickly and accurately during the meeting. We want to remind any town meeting members to turn off their Wi-Fi hotspots. We have members in the auditorium, the cafeteria, and outside in cars. The electronic handset were programmed accordingly. If you are not sitting in the room the handset was programmed for, it will not work. I will announce when the voting will start, and there is a green light to show when the voting is, which is right here. The light will be off when it is ended, and I will announce when it has ended. During that time, you will be able to vote. Press the green button for yes and the red button for no. If you accidentally press the wrong button, you can change it during the voting period. If you decide you don't want to vote, do not press any buttons, or you can push the yellow for abstain. Once the voting has ended, no votes will be allowed. Before we start, we will do a sample article to test and make sure that they are all working properly. All the articles will show up as a pass or fail. The two-thirds articles will fail if they do not meet the two-thirds. If passed, they will be declared that they have passed. If you need to leave the meeting temporarily, please keep your handset with you. Do not give it to anyone to hold or leave in your seat. If you need to leave the meeting completely, please place the handset in a labeled box at the table before leaving the auditorium or at the check-in desk. Charles Baker has offered to read all the motions tonight. Please have cell phones off or silenced. If you wish to address this meeting, you must do so only after I have recognized you. Please stand and then come forward to the microphones. There's one at the bottom of each row in the auditorium. If you're coming from another room, as you enter the hallway over here to come into this room, there's a microphone there for you to use. Please identify yourself by name and precinct for the record. If you are making a motion to second an article, please keep your hand up so we can see who seconds all the motions. Thank you. We ready? We will use the electronic system for voting all articles. After the article motion is read. Article. Article 1. To hear the reports of the Finance Committee and other town offices and committees or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Oh, there's no motion for that. That's right. I'm sorry. What's that? You ready? Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for your participation in the annual town meeting process. The Finance Committee has completed its review of the Town of Auburn's budgets and capital improvement plan for fiscal 2022, which you have before you tonight. I would like to acknowledge the hard work by our committee, and I appreciate their fairness in the annual budget process. The $72.8 million 2022 budget before you represents a $1.4 million or an 1.89% increase from the final 2021 budget. The notable increases in the operating budget include $595,000 increase, 4.89%, increase in employee benefits, which includes a $400,000 or 5.1% estimated increase in group health insurance, and a $341,000 or 9.6% increase in the Worcester County Retirement Plan. Also, $774,000 or 2.85% increase in the school department operating budget, and $89,000 or 12.53% increase in the finance department so that staffing needs may be addressed. Revenues were estimated in the usual conservative manner. Please remember that the state cherry sheet amounts are estimates, as the state legislature will determine the final numbers for those revenues this summer. Any necessary adjustments to the budget will be made at the fall town meeting. Warrant articles before you tonight include various standard annual articles, repurposing CIP articles, including those for the library Goddard Park project, articles with requests for bylaw and zoning bylaw changes, and other requests. Regarding the warrant articles, the Finance Committee takes the following position. Articles 2 through 11, yes. Article 12, defer to the petitioner. Articles 13 to 25, yes. Articles 27 and 30, yes. And Articles 26, 28, 29, and 31, defer to petitioner. Respectfully submitted, Ann Kavanaugh, Chair, Kevin Kennedy, Vice Chair, Ed Coleman, Trevor Sansucci, and Mike Marshall. Thank you.
Mrs. Goodrich?
Good evening, town meeting members. The Board of Selectmen is pleased to recommend the budget prepared by town administration and presented to the Finance Committee. The financial policies once again play a key role in the budget process. These financial policies adopted by the Board of Selectmen, the School Committee, and the Finance Committee help the town to continue its financial stability. The long-term planning has enabled us to look out 5, 10, and even 20 years for the town's needs. The Board of Selectmen make the following recommendations on the annual town meeting warrant. Articles 2 through 31, the Board voted to recommend approval on all articles. Respectfully submitted, Doreen Goodrich, Chairman, Tristan Liberty, Vice Chairman, members Daniel S. Carpenter, Lionel R. Berthium, and Scott C. Wren. Thank you, and have a great meeting.
Can we have it a little brighter? It's hard to read.
I know, sorry, I don't think the boards. Well, it's
Okay, thanks.
We will do the sample article now. You'll love this one. Will the Red Sox win the World Series in 2021? That's the article. Somebody should second it now. Yeah. We will use the electronic voting system for all articles, and after the motion is read, please press green for yes, red for no. When the voting light goes off, please use your keyboard to respond when we are ready to vote. The light goes on. Yeah. That's it? The voting has ended.
Okay, now you're going to tell them the results. Failed.
No.
This was a two-thirds. That's why. 24 yes
24
to 37, and it failed.
yes, 37 no, and 1 abstention.
So it failed.
Thank you.
Tell them that was a two-thirds anyways.
Huh?
That was a two-thirds sample.
Oh,
All right, so each time, you're gonna read when it's,
yeah.
what?
I can't.
Okay. Article 2, to see if the town meeting will vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected town officers or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
There is, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town meeting vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected town officers for fiscal year 2022 as follows. Town Moderator, $296. Selectman Chair, $1,740. Selectmen, 4 of them, $6,097. Town Clerk, $78,267.
Is there a second? There is a second. You got it? Discussion? Not seeing any? When the light goes on, please use your keypad to respond when we are ready to vote.
All right, wait 1 second.
Well, the light has to go on.
Yeah, wait a minute, he's gotta advance the slide. Okay, just say, momentary, we have to advance the slide, that's why we have to turn the light on. They have to advance the slide and then we'll turn the light on.
They have to advance the slide so they can turn the light on. Soon as the light goes on, vote.
Julie, he's gonna say the light is now on because the people in the car don't know the light's on.
The voting period has now ended. The vote is 66 for, nobody against, and no abstentions. You ready for Article 3?
Hold on now. What Julie said.
Huh?
Julie said, we have to tell them when the light's on, because the people in the car don't know when the light's on.
I did
So-
tell them.
I know you did. So we just tell them we want to tell them.
Article 3, to determine what sums of money the town meeting will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide for the appropriate to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest, and to provide for a reserve fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide for and appropriate to pay town debts and charges for the ensuing year, the several sums of money in the proposed budget as stated in the recommendation of finance columns on pages 22 to 66 inclusive of the Town of Auburn fiscal year 2022 budget and annual town meeting warrant totaling $68,707,375, and to raise said sum by transferring from available funds $15,000 from cemetery lots and graves, $25,000 from pension reserve, $3,000 from wetlands fund, $45,000 reserved for appropriation dog licenses, $50,000 reserved for appropriation Casella host agreement, $1,075,000 from reserve for appropriations ambulance, $20,000 from overflow trash bags, $71,097.35 from high school, middle school debt reserves, $5,000 from perpetual care, and by raising and appropriating or otherwise providing for the balance of said funds, each total amount as printed in the recommendation Finance Committee columns of the 2021-2022 budget to be considered a specified departmental appropriation, and further, that the Finance Committee is authorized to transfer between the individual accounts which total any specific appropriation when requested by a department and the committee feels such transfer is in the best interests of the town.
Is there a second? Now we'll go over the budget. Starts on probably page 20, but 21 you'll see. Yeah. Okay, I'll just give you the totals.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yep.
And welcome town meeting members. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ed Kazanovich. I'm the town's Chief Financial Officer and Assistant Town Manager. My presentation for Article 3 tonight includes not only the operating budget, but it accounts for all of the requests that are before you tonight. With the exception of Article 12, there will be a motion to postpone that article indefinitely. We'll bring something back at the fall town meeting to address our OPEB liability. We were hoping and put a hold on that warrant article, hoping that the House budget would yield more revenue than the governor's recommended budget. That was released a few weeks ago. I am sad to say that the House budget does not yield much more than what the governor has proposed. A couple of changes before I get started. I just want to let you know that this presentation reduces the level of taxation that has been submitted in your booklet by about $73,000. We were able to apply more of retained earnings for the sewer capital, as well as Packagug Golf Course, to meet our capital needs and to reduce the level of taxation presented before you tonight. This budget tonight is recommended to raise $72,783,280.81 in revenue. And the revenue sources that make that up are local receipts, cherry sheet receipts, tax levy, and including debt exclusion, which is raised outside of the levy, and available funds, offset by total appropriations of equal balance of $72,783,280.81. As a result of that, the level of taxation of 2.5 would be about 1.97 out of 2.5, or about 79.08%. These are the funding sources I just read. Page 2. Here's what makes up our revenue sources. We have local receipts, an increase of $282,000, a recommended estimate of $9,950,972.73. Our cherry sheet receipts, these are the governor's numbers, would yield an increase of $249,163, 1.70% increase. Total cherry sheet receipts of $14,915,839. Total tax levy of $42,905,010.27, a $1.4 million increase, or a 3.41. Our debt exclusions for the high school and the middle school raises $2.831 million. It's a decrease over the current fiscal year of $50,199.27. It's a reduction of 1.74%. In total available funds, we're estimating $2,179,673. It's a $529,000 reduction, or about just shy of 20%. Once again, total revenue $72,783,280.81. It's a 1.91% increase over the current fiscal year. When we look at the total tax levy, as I indicated earlier, we're taxing at about 79.08%. It utilizes $963,721 of the total 2.5 allowed under Proposition 2.5. This budget recommendation uses a conservative estimate of $450,000 for new growth, although I can tell you our building permits, despite COVID-19, have ticked upwards, which is a good thing. That means there's hopefully some substantial new growth that we can recognize. Our 5-year average for new growth is $751,163, which I will show in a graph in a subsequent slide. This budget utilizes 1/10 of the allowable 2.5 for our capital budgets, as consistent with our financial policies. and this budget raises $2.813 million outside of the levy, once again for our debt service for Auburn High School and middle school construction projects. Here's a slide of new growth. As you can see, over the 5 years, it's averaged at 751,163. Once again, we estimated 450,000, and typically what we consider, if we have growth above and beyond 450, we consider that to either dilute the level of taxation, or we may use that in consideration of narrowing the gap between the commercial and industrial tax rate and the residential tax rate. Continuing to look at tax levy revenue, we're taxing at 85.12% of what out of 100%. That leaves an excess levy of 14.88% unused, or $7,501,443. And here's our history of excess levy. FY21, I want to emphasize that we did not tax 1 penny of the allowable 2.5. If you look at the left-hand side of the graph, that's the level of taxation since 2011. We haven't come close to 2.5 over that 10-year period. As a result of that, we saved the taxpayers of this community $41,749,475. You could look at any other community in central Massachusetts and no one else is going to come close to this excess levy amount. So this is good news. Most communities are taxing at 2.5, Auburn is not. And that translates to savings to each and every one of you and to all of our businesses as well. That's something we're very proud of. When we look at the cherry sheet revenue, we're using the governor's proposed state aid. That increase is $249,163 over the current fiscal year. We're recognizing a 3.5% increase in the governor's recommended budget in unrestricted local aid. That increase is $63,649. We are recognizing an increase in Chapter 70 of $72,630. The House estimates were released on April 15th. As I indicated earlier, it's only an additional increase of $22,069. In terms of Chapter 70, we were hoping the state would take a position that they would hold local school districts harmless as a result of the change in school enrollment. As a result of COVID-19, that's not the case. We had a fluctuation in discussions with Superintendent Hanfield, that there was a reduction of about 100 students. I think there were those parents who opted for other educational considerations. As a result of that, clearly we lost some Chapter 70 revenues that we normally would have received. Hopefully they will reconsider that in a conference or an agreement between the House and the Senate, but it's too early. So hopefully maybe we can bring something back to the fall town meeting if in fact they do hold communities harmless. Here is what we received in terms of notification from the Commonwealth in terms of the governor's proposed budget. On the left is the current FY21 cherry sheet estimates. On the right is the governor's. In terms of budget cherry sheet assessments, the total cherry sheet assessments proposed by the governor is $642,887. That's an increase over the current fiscal year, which means this is an additional expense of $1,017. The House estimates released would increase the level of assessments by $20,377. Once again, the Senate estimates won't be known probably till sometime in June. Here's a picture of the assessments, the current FY21 versus FY22. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, $642,887. When we look at our available funds, we're estimating $2,179,673. We're utilizing $1,075,000 of ambulance proceeds as an offset to the fire department operating budget and capital budgets. We're using SOAR retained earnings of $315,000 to offset strictly capital. We're using Packagug golf retained earnings of $45,000 for capital enhancements, as well as Enterprise Fund ACTV cable retained earnings of $35,000. Those last three items can be seen under Article 4 in your booklet. We're also using as an offset to the amount we raised for the debt exclusion for the Auburn High School and Middle School project, $71,097.35. There was interest, there was a premium that we earned as a result of that bond sale that's reserved and is used annually to offset the cost of debt and interest. We're also asking tonight for one-time use of available funds for the Library Guarded Park project. We're asking for stabilization of $80,000, free cash of $147,236, overlay surplus of $25,000, and other miscellaneous available funds of $154,554. When we look at our local receipts, this is something that we know we're going to have to revisit when we know our actual receipts received through June 30th. Right now, we're using $9,950,973. That's an increase of $282,000 over the current fiscal year. This may require a post-annual town meeting adjustment due to continued lagging receipts as a result of COVID-19 in the areas of meal tax and room occupancy receipts. There is a proposed trash fee increase for the second half of next fiscal year to cover all the direct and indirect costs associated with trash collection, recycling, and disposal under the terms of the new contract with Casella. All other local receipts are level funded at this time, and we will update once again these projections once they are known through June 30th of 2021. When we look at the breakdown of revenue by revenue source, our tax levy yields the largest revenue source of $42,905,010. That makes up about 58.95% of total revenue. Followed by Cherry Sheet State Aid, $14.9 million or 20.49. Local receipts, $9.950 million or 13.67. Our available funds make up just shy of 3% of $2.179 million, and the debt exclusion raised outside of the levy, $2.831 million, yields 3.89 of total revenue. Once again, our total revenue sources, $72,783,280.81. That's up $1.365 million over the current fiscal year, or a 1.91% increase. Now, looking at the expense side of the budget, these are in your budget book. These are the recommendations made by department that will be read by the moderator at the conclusion of my presentation. Once again, when you tally all of those up, far right-hand column, $72,783,280.81. And once again, this does include all funding sources outside of Article 3. Some of the highlights on the expenditure side: this budget does cover all contractual obligations on the wage side. This budget creates one new fire EMS lieutenant's position to support departmental training. This is funded 100% exclusively by ambulance proceeds. The group health insurance is increased by 4.3%. It's an increase of $400,000, although I can tell you the actual increase for group health was about 11.5%. We're able to use a portion of our health trust, which has a balance of a little over $10 million in it, is a way to mitigate that increase. That $10 million is based upon employee and employer contribution on a premium basis, but we actually pay actual claims out of the trust. That savings has been accumulating since 2004. We're going to have an increase in the Worcester Regional Retirement Assessment of $340,739, or 9.37%. It also takes advantage of a savings option. If we pay it by July 1st, we get to save $71,874. So we recommended the net, planning on making that early payment. It increases our Medicare obligation to meet all of our wage increases. That we have to contribute 1.45% annually. It meets all of our debt obligations. This budget does provide for a permanent long-term bond issue that we will seek in November of 2021, which will require a next year interest payment at 6 months after that to meet our borrowing obligation. The budget also provides for costs associated with debt exclusion, including debt and interest that I highlighted earlier. Once again, I want to emphasize that our high school debt is going to be retired in FY 2024. It's amazing that we only have a couple of years to go on that. And we have an increased assessment of an increased assessment to $69,000 for Norfolk Agricultural School. This is a vocational school. We will have 2 students enrolled, and that assessment has been passed along to us from Norfolk. This budget does provide for an increase at Bay Path of $100,077 due to increased student enrollment from 90 to 99. This budget does have a fuel recommendation based upon a consumption of fuel at $2.25 per gallon. I think we can all recognize the fact that when we prepared our recommendation back in January, the cost of fuel has been climbing. It's currently standing at about $2.75 per gallon. This may require an adjustment at the fall town meeting if this continues at its current rate or if it increases over the next several months. We currently have no appropriation request for stabilization, and as I indicated at the beginning of this presentation, OPEB, we are going to recommend postponing indefinitely to the fall town meeting. This budget, in terms of expenditures, it uses the governor's recommended charges and assessments. This budget also, once again, applies our adopted financial policies that were voted and adopted by the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen back in 2012. The budget does include, under Article 4, the capital improvement plan, request of $2,574,916. That would rely on a borrowing of $814,276. Here are the funding sources for Article 4 for our capital plan. So you can see tax levy utilization of $1,335,640. That is accumulated since we adopted the financial policies. We apply 1/10 of 2.5 every year towards our capital plan, with the goal, ultimately, of being able to cover all of our capital budgeting plan through tax levy, available funds, retained earnings without borrowing any money. That's our ultimate goal. It utilizes $315,000 of sewer retained earnings, $45,000 for package hog retained earnings, $35,000 for cable access retained earnings. Those are all enterprise funds. Our CIP trust, which we have a balance of $1.4 million, earns about $30,000 a year in interest. We use that as an offset to our capital purchases, leaving a net balance of $814,276 to be funded through bond proceeds. When we look at the pie chart for the expense side, we look at our educational needs as 40.28% of the total expense. I want to emphasize that the educational appropriation of $29,320 does not include indirect costs that are allowed and are covered on the town side as a support cost for the school department. When you include that into the direct cost of the school department, you're probably looking at a total percentage of about 60% of direct and indirect costs. We look at our employee benefits at about 12.8 million, makes up about 17.54% of total expenditures. Public safety, 11.79. Debt and interest, 7.09. Public works, 8.07. General government, 5.42. Assessments, along with offsets, overlays, CIP, and outside articles, 5.60%. Solid waste at 1.74, public services at 1.51, and inspectional and economic services just under 1%, 0.96. So when we look at our total appropriations, $72,783,280.81, equal to that of our revenue. Once again, up $1,365,478.01, or up 1.91%. So when we look at our total appropriations, it equals our total revenue. For a balanced budget, once again, our unused portion of levy, remember I indicated that we used $963,000 or 2.5. The balance of that is $264,728.58, which would bring us to the full value of 2.5. So with that, I'd like to tell you that we do have a balanced budget, and with that, I will turn it back to the moderator to begin to read the recommended budgets as approved by the Finance Committee. Thank you.
It's time to hear the budget now. Starts on page 20. I'm just going to read the totals. Account number 135, Finance Department total, $798,536. DPW, number 411, DPW total, $5,872,411. Number 511, Development Inspectional Services, total $698,553. Bottom total, 68 million, well, I don't know where I went astray here. No. $68,307,375. On page 22, fiscal year salary, total $296. 01122, selectmen's total, $10,737. If you have a question, please say hold, and I will be happy to put a mark there and come back to it. Number 01129, town manager total, $415,388. Number 01131, finance committee total, $815. Number 01132, reserve total, $280,000. Number 01135, account total, $325,679. Number 01141, assessed total, $187,427. Total finance department, $798,536. Account number 01151, legal total, $145,000. Account number 01152, total HR, $81,091. Account number 01155, information technology, $241,096. Number 01161, town clerk total, $188,128. Number 01162, election total, $36,185. Number 01192, town hall total, $52,500. Number 01199, administrative GS total, $1,457,268. Number 201, school total, $27,988, excuse me, $27,988,540. Number 01210.
Yeah.
POL administration totals, $990,871. Police total, $5 million. That's 01211. $5,015,022. Fire total, number 012212. $3,569,212. Number 01291, emergency total, $17,500. Bay Path, number 01302, $1,262,707. Number 01303 total, that's Norfolk, $69,000. Number 01411, town engineering total, $596,901. Number 01415, stormwater total, $382,459. Number 01421-014252, highway total, $1,416,695. Number 01426, facilities total, $84,365. Number 01427, fleet total, $204,971. Number 01651, parks totals, $287,931. Number 017011, Packagug Golf Course total, $369,424. Number 01650, recreation total, $51,392. Number 01491, cemetery total, $192,153. Number 601, sewer total, $2,286,120, which gives the total Department of Public Works a total of $5,872,411. Number 01433, solid waste total, $1,265,259.
51.
Number 01511, public health total, $273,257. Number 01175, planning total, $87,847. Number 011802, economic development total, $59,523. Number 01241, building total, $192,459. Number 01171, conservation total, $15,064. Number 01292, animal control total, $70,403. The total for the Department of the Inspectional Services is $698,553. Number 01176, appeals total, $14,184. Number 01610, library total, $653,000. Number 01541, senior center, elder services, $129,432. Number 621, community TV total, $207,770. Total for the Department of Public Services, $1,167,052. Number 01542, youth total, $136,914. Debt total, number 01710, $4,043,015. Number 01752, interest total, $1,115,994. Number 01910, pension total, $12,764,972. CIP total, $2,482,900. Number 155, information technology. It says managers total, $35,000. Infotech total, $25,000. Department of Inspectional Services, there is nothing there.
Mr.
Yes. Oh, is it? Okay. Sorry, thank you. I never gave the grand total, so that's why I was waiting for. Thank you. That's Article 3. Article 3 is a majority vote. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Largess, I'll feel that question. Since the golf course opened, there has not been one penny of tax levy money that's been appropriated for the operation of the golf course. The golf course, since it opened, has accumulated a surplus of about $140,000. That money is currently, it's self-supporting through its fees, and retained earnings is being appropriated to meet the capital needs under Article 4. So there is no tax levy money used to support the golf course.
Okay, and just a comment, not a question. Every year, we come in front of town meeting, and every year, we hear how much money the budget has saved us because we didn't go to 2.5%. Just 1 year, I would love to come in here and say, we did it with 0.99%. Is that a possibility to do? Every year, it seems like we come right at 1.94%, 1.99%. Is that a possibility for the heads of all these departments to do?
So if you see the operational growth as identified in my presentation, the level of growth presented to you tonight is 1.91%. It was roughly the same for FY21 that we're in, and we did not increase taxation. So you have to look at the excess levy in a way that we are taxing the residents and the businesses of our community. That slide showed that we saved the taxpayers roughly $42 million over an 11-year period.
I understand that, but there's people in this town that can't afford for the taxes every single year to go up. The elderly in this town, they're having to sell their houses. It's just once, I'd love to come in or do an elderly reduction or something.
Mr. Largess, we did that for the current year that we're in. We had zero taxation. And I think we, at the fall town meeting, we cut the budget by $3.3 million in order to do that, to give some savings back to the residents of our community, knowing that there was a lot of pain and suffering out there because of COVID-19.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? Oh. There's a microphone over to your left. Thank you.
Kathy Stone, Precinct 4. And I just want to see if I heard something correct on page 21, the bottom total. You read it as $307,375, which is an exact even $400,000 off. And that just seemed to me to be misread. What is the actual figure?
Developmental services, is that the one?
Bottom total.
Oh. No, I just read that because it was the bottom total right there. I mean, I should have skipped it, to be very honest with you, but I didn't.
Okay, but, so skipped it or not, what is the actual number?
Mr. Moderator, I'll take that question.
Thank you.
If you look at the total, the bottom total on page 21, $68,707,375. And if you look at page 4, 3/4 of the way down the page under the totals heading under employee benefits, it's the same amount, $68,707,375.
Okay, so it was misread, or I misheard, I'm willing to admit, but just needed to clarify it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any more questions? Not seeing any. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. We are ready to vote. Vote now.
I said one red. Yeah. You want to shift this way? Or do you want to change seats? Okay. No.
The voting period has now ended. The article passes. Yeah. Article 4. To see if the town meeting will vote to approve a capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2022 to determine what sums of money will be raised by taxation and appropriated, transferred from available funds acquired by lease purchase, contract, authorized to be borrowed, or otherwise provided for to the fund for fiscal year 2022. Capital improvement budget to determine under whose direction the expenditure to borrow money from time to time for notes, bonds, or notes in anticipation of bonds or revenues to be payable in not more than the term provided by law. Said borrow funds not to exceed such sums as the town may vote. In any premium received by the town upon the sale of bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied in the prudent payment of the cost of the insurance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws 44, Section 20 of the General Law, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting approve the 5-year capital improvement plan for the town manager, information technology, town clerk, planning, police, fire, engineering, fleet maintenance unit, highway, sewer, cemetery, senior center, elder affairs, library, parks, Auburn Community Television, Packagug Golf Course, and schools, as stated on pages 68 through 74 inclusive of the Town of Auburn fiscal year 2022 budget and annual town meeting warrant, and further, to approve an appropriation of $2,574,916 to fund the fiscal year 2022 capital improvement program as specified on pages 67 through 74 under the column entitled Finance Committee Recommendations, and to raise said sums by borrowing and appropriating the sum of $1,335,640 from general fund revenues, $30,000 from CIP expendable trust, $315,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings, $35,000 from cable access enterprise retained earnings, and $45,000 from Packagug enterprise retained earnings. I also move that the town meeting authorize the borrowing of $814,276 for a period of up to 10 years for the items as identified in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. I further move that prior to purchase, all over-the-road vehicles shall be marked on both front door panels as property of the town of Auburn for official use only, and have a permanently affixed town seal, and that the expenditure of funds so appropriated shall be under the direction of the chief procurement officer of the town or school department.
Is there a second? There is a second. Okay. Any questions? Not seeing any questions, then we are ready to vote. When the light goes on, it's on now. When the light goes off, it will be the end of the voting period. Please vote now. This, by the way, is a 2/3 vote. The light is off. Voting is ended. There was 79 for, 2 against. That's a 2/3 vote. It passes. Now we move on to Article 5. Article 5 is on page 75. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue to be received during the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022. And to issue a note or notes that may be given for a period of less than 1 year, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to authorize the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenues to be received during the financial year beginning July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30, 2022, and to issue a note on notes that may be given for a period of less than 1 year.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Mr. Largess?
Is there a money cap on this?
Mr. Largess, can you please repeat the question?
Is there a money cap on the borrowing?
No, typically this vote allows for, and I don't believe the town treasurer ever exercised this option since I've been here. This is normally exercised in the event that we cannot meet our cash flow needs. We have a healthy cash balance and don't need to rely on borrowing short-term notes in order to meet our day-to-day obligations. This was typically common back in the early 90s when the state delayed its distribution of cherry sheet revenue. This hasn't been the case. Not only that, but we've built up reserves and a healthy cash balance. This is just there as a backstop in the event that something drastic should happen, but I don't ever foresee that happening.
And it would be a numerous amount of people, or just a one person?
No, this can only be done by the town treasurer, and typically these are called revenue anticipation notes. They're very similar to, it's a short-term borrowing until you can catch up on your collections, but our collection rate is fantastic and our cash balance is very healthy and stable.
Okay, thank you. Just a heads up, I'm going to also have the same question for Article 8. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Not seeing any. We're ready for the vote. When the light goes on, please decide and please vote. When the light goes off, the period is over. Our light is on now. Please vote. This is just a majority, by the way. What, two-thirds? This is two-thirds. You sure? The light is out. The voting period has ended. It's unanimous. The vote passes. Article 6, to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit applications for any available state funds, including Department of Elder Affairs, formula grants, funds, which funds the Board determines to be beneficial to the town, and to authorize the expenditure of any money received as a result of said applications, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit applications for any available state or federal funds, including Department of Elder Affairs formula grant funds, which funds the board determines to be beneficial to the town, and to authorize the expenditure of any money received as a result of said applications.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? This is a majority. Oh, sorry, Tom, I didn't see you down there.
No problem.
Mr. Dufour.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. Just a quick question with something like this where authorizing the Board of Selectmen to apply for a grant. Is there a reason that this would come to that it has to come through town meeting as opposed to being like a bylaw change saying, hey, Board of Selectmen, if you can find the town money that we just have to apply for, go ahead and do it? That's my question. Is it something that can be made permanent as opposed to coming up at town meeting?
So, Mr. Dufour, great question. A lot of these authorizations and approvals by the Board of Selectmen are time sensitive. In some cases, it could be a matter of days or weeks before you could file for any potential consideration for these grant funds. If we were to hold this and take it to town meeting, the law does allow the Board of Selectmen to take that vote. But if we were to consider bringing that to town meeting, we may miss many opportunities because the grant deadlines could end. We'd have to call town meeting on a moment's notice. But the law does allow this to be voted by the Board of Selectmen. I'm sorry?
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Kazanovich. I meant it more as opposed to, on an annual basis, authorizing the Board of Selectmen to do this, say a bylaw change to the town that allows the Board of Selectmen carte blanche whenever an opportunity arises to apply for a grant that's going to benefit the town, that we don't need to renew this every year. It's just...
Okay. I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing. I would have to consult with town council to see if we could establish a bylaw that would allow that to happen without bringing this back annually to the floor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any. This is a majority vote. When the light goes on, please vote. Vote now. Voting has ended. It passes unanimously. Article 7, to see if the Board of Selectmen to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell at public auction or by sealed bid or at assessed value under special circumstances any properties which the town may have acquired or may hereafter acquire through tax title, foreclosure proceedings, and to sign, acknowledge, and deliver in the name and under the seal of the town deeds, therefore, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to authorize the Board of Selection to sell at public auction or by sealed bid or at assessed value under special circumstances any properties which the town may have acquired or may hereafter acquire through tax, title, foreclosure proceedings, and to sign, acknowledge, and deliver in the name and under the seal of the town deeds therefore.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Not seeing any. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. We are ready to vote right now. Vote. The light is on. The light just went out. The vote has ended. It passes 77 to 3. Article 8. To see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensatory balance agreements during the fiscal year of 2022 as permitted by Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or act on any other enabling statute. If voted, this would permit the treasurer to maintain specific sums of money and deposit in banks in return for banking services, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensatory balance agreements during fiscal year 2022 as permitted by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or any other enabling statute. If voted, this would permit the treasurer to maintain specific sums of money and deposit in banks in return for banking services.
Is there a second? There is a second. You got it? Are there any questions? Not seeing any then. We're ready for the vote. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is on. The light is off. It passes 78 to 1. Article 9, to see if the town meeting will vote to establish or renew revolving funds for various town and school programs in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53D, in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to establish or renew revolving funds for various town and school programs in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53D, and Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71.
Is there a second? Are there any questions? Not seeing any, then I believe we're ready for the vote. Remember, when the light goes on, you begin voting. The light is now on. Please vote. The light just went out. It passes 79-0. Article 10, to see if the town meeting will vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract or contracts with Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the period commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract or contracts with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the construction and maintenance of public highways for the period commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022.
Is there a second? Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any? All those in favor of Article 10? We'll start voting as soon as the light goes on. Vote now. The voting period is now over. The question passes 79-1. Article 11, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money, if it becomes available, from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Chapter 90 bond issue, proceeds to be used for the repair and maintenance of town roads, in conformance with the Massachusetts general laws, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate from available funds a sum of money, if it becomes available, from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Chapter 90 bond issue proceeds to be used for the repair and maintenance of town roads in conformance with the Massachusetts general laws.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any questions then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. Please vote. The voting period has just ended. The light went out. It passes 80-1. Article 12, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $500,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to postpone this article indefinitely.
Is there a second? There are several seconds. We have a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The light is now on. The vote has begun. Please vote. The voting light is off. Voting has stopped. The vote passes 75 to 2. To postpone, yes. Article 13, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $150,000 for Medicaid receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for the fiscal year 2022 to fund supplies in medical, therapeutic, and educational services for significantly disabled special needs students, as well as tuition and transportation to and from outside placements or within the district for special needs students, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $150,000 from medical receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2022 to fund supplies and medical, therapeutic, and educational services for significantly disabled special needs students, as well as tuition and transportation to and from outside placements or within the district for special needs students.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. Please respond. Please vote. The voting light is off. The voting period is over. It passes 75 to 3. Article 14, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $22,070.64, which is the interest earned by the Auburn High School Gymnasium Health and Recreational Trust Fund to offset school department costs at Auburn High in support of community health and recreational activities at Auburn High School Gymnasium and related facilities and equipment, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $22,070.64, which is the interest earned by the Auburn High School Gymnasium Health and Recreational Trust Fund to offset school department costs at Auburn High School in support of community health and recreational activities at Auburn High School Gymnasium and related facilities and equipment.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. The voting light is now off. Voting has ended. The question passes. A question is passed. The vote is 78-3. Article 15, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $5,000 from the McKinney-Vento receipts within the general fund reserves to the Auburn School Department operating budget for the fiscal year 2022 to fund transportation for students to and from school who have become homeless during the fiscal year, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $5,000 from McKinney-Vento receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2022 to fund transportation for students to and from school who have become homeless during the fiscal year.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to vote. The light is now on. Please vote. The voting light is off. Voting has stopped. The question passes 76-3. Article 16, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $4,200 from the foster care transportation receipts within the general fund reserves to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2022 to fund transportation costs for students to and from school who are residing in foster care placements during the fiscal year, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $4,200 from foster care transportation receipts within the general fund revenues to the Auburn School Department operating budget for fiscal year 2022 to fund transportation costs for students to and from school who are residing in foster care placements during the fiscal year.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. Please vote. The voting light is off. Voting has ended. The question passes 76-3. Article 17, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 7th, 2019 town meeting, Swanson Road Building Rehab, account number 302020-582050 as follows. Authorize the amount of $7,000 to be used for the purpose of removing the underground oil tank at Swanson Road Intermediate School, 10 Swanson Road, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 7, 2019 town meeting, Swanson Road Building Rehab, account number 302020-582050 as follows. Authorize the amount of $7,000 to be used for the purposes of renewing the underground oil tank at Swanson Road Intermediate School, 10 Swanson Road.
Is there a second? There is a second. This, by the way, is a two-thirds vote. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. Please vote. The voting light is now off. Voting has stopped. The vote was 74 to 5. It's a two-thirds vote. It passes. Article 18. Article 18. To see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 2017 town meeting, building rehab of Central Administration Building, account number 302018-581843 as follows. Authorize $15,000 to be used for the Gordon Park Library project or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to repurpose CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 2017 town meeting building rehab of Central Administration Building, account number 302018-581843 as follows. Authorize $15,000 to be used for the Gordon Park Library project.
Is there a second? There is a second. Ms. Jacobson.
Thank you. Great. Good evening, town meeting members. The next few articles, Articles 18 to 24, all deal with the funding for the proposed library Goddard Park pedestrian bridge project. And they provide the town's 50% match to a $505,000 grant that we received from the Pappas Foundation. So I wanted to explain this project to all of you. I did enclose in your packets with the warrant some information on this project. Also, we held a pre-town meeting to discuss this as well. We've had several public presentations on the project, but I want to give the town meeting members the opportunity to hear what this project is all about. We have presented this to the Library Board of Trustees, who voted to support this. On January 6th, we presented it to them on January 6th. We went back again about a month later and gave them the financial plan, at which point they voted to support it unanimously. The Board of Selectmen voted to support these warrant articles as well. There was a public presentation on January 25th. The Finance Committee on February 24th also voted to support these articles. The pre-town meeting informational session that we held on April 20th, we did taped that as well, because we felt that not only should town meeting members have the opportunity to see this, but we wanted the public to be aware of it as well. And then again this evening. So I'm going to go over a few things, mostly the summary of the project as it relates to approved plans, the estimated project cost, the grant that we got, and the town funding plan for our match. So this is a proposed three-phase project. The first part is to install a large sunroom addition on the back of the library facility. The second is to implement various improvements to Goddard Park. And the third is to construct a pedestrian bridge over the brook to physically link the library parcel with Goddard Park. I won't go through all of these bullets. Again, we did do a presentation on this, and it is on our website, so I hope some of you who had questions had the opportunity to look at this. And I also want to thank those town meeting members who did raise questions at the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. So just as a reminder, the overall vision of Drury Square is really to create a downtown environment for the town. We've applied for and received several grants to do that, and I'll go through those after. And a lot of the plans that have been approved by the town that were done through community-wide processes, I think between all of these plans, we've probably had close to between 40 and 60 public meetings on them. There's always been talk about creating a physical link between Goddard Park and the library. And this pedestrian bridge would span over Dunn's Brook, which would improve and enhance Goddard Park and provide new space at the back of the library through a sunroom type addition that would provide an opportunity for expanded indoor space at the library as well as outdoor programming. The pedestrian bridge would provide connectivity to enable the town to develop walking trails through Goddard Park, which I'm going to get into in a couple minutes, to the library, to Brotherton Way, and back into Goddard Park. And by providing direct access via the pedestrian bridge, the park can actually, and the pond, can be a huge asset to the library, as we have already started to think of several programs that we could hold if we were able to get from the library to Goddard Park. The glass sunroom structure on the back of the library would provide much-needed indoor space, and we would also be doing improvements to Goddard Park to rejuvenate that park. This project complements the ongoing $4.2 million Auburn Street reconstruction project and the town-funded additional $900,000 in aesthetic improvements in Drury Square, as well as the recently started and soon-to-be completed $400,000 Brotherton Way improvement project. The town applied for and received approval for a $505,000 grant through the Arthur M. and Martha R. Pappas Foundation, and this grant requires a 50% match. We are proud to say that we're before you this evening with a financial plan that does not require any new tax dollars for our residents. This would strictly utilize available funds. This project, we've been asked, where did this project idea came from? Well, for many of you who I see here have participated in various public planning processes in the town, and we've been doing this for several years now. And most, if not all, of the plans that have been developed with the community, with the residents, with this town, and then approved by the town, have included a number of strategies and goals related to Drury Square, the connectivity between municipal parcels in Drury Square, and the need to tie the library better into Drury Square. And you can see these plans, I've listed them out here, but we go back to 2017 with the Planning, Vision, and Design Guidelines for Drury Square, the Economic Development Plan, the Drury Square Village District Plan, the Master Plan, the Facade Improvement Program, the ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan, the Design Guidelines for Drury Square, the Wayfinding and Placemaking Initiative just completed, the Auburn Public Library Strategic Plan completed a little less than a year ago. We are also through the TIP plan funding and approved the reconstruction of Auburn Street, which all of you are well aware of what's going on Auburn Street. You can see it, and that's a really exciting project. Just to take a couple of slides to show you, and I'm sure you all know the area, but if you look at the land area in Drury Square, more than 50% of the land in Drury Square is public land. This public land includes the library, Goddard Park, the fire department, headquarters, as well as the school. This is just another shot of it, just showing you what is owned by the town and what's privately owned. And as you can see, over 50%, again, is owned by the town. It is an opportunity to enhance our existing public facilities and improve the streetscape through public investment. I won't go through all of these. If I need to go back, I'm happy to, but I did pull out various excerpts from these plans, in which case the goal that we're trying to achieve this evening with this vote is clearly identified. I do want to point this out, that the 2020 Library Strategic Plan, that was a process that the Board of Trustees undertook and involved over 1,300 residents participating in the process. Their sixth goal is to maintain a safe, welcoming, comfortable, and inclusive facility. And that includes expanding the library's physical footprint to increase programming opportunities and flexibility, and to optimize the interior and exterior spaces to meet diverse, evolving operational and community needs. How many of you have ever been to the library and actually never been behind the library? And it's because we really don't maximize or use that library space at all behind the library. So this would enable us to put an addition onto the back of the library and visually connect with Goddard Park, and hopefully with the pedestrian bridge that would take library patrons and give them the ability to go over to the pond and to the park for some shared experiences with their families, some community events, and some learning experiences through the library. Again, the Economic Development Plan points out the opportunity and the desire to have a forward-looking plan about how to make Drury Square into a town center and how to really bring in our municipal parcels into Drury Square. Likewise, the master plan talks a lot about continuing the development of Drury Square as a mixed-use district, developing wayfinding elements, revitalizing Goddard Park, developing a walkable Drury Square, cleaning Ramshorn Brook, enhancing recreation and outdoor space at Drury Square. I won't go through the entire list, but all of these strategies were clearly identified in the master plan. And likewise, the Drury Square Vision Plan, that was specific to Drury Square, and that talked a lot about looking at the connection, or the lack of a connection, between the library and Drury Square, the library and Goddard Park, and how Goddard Park is really a true asset of the town. And it's a historical education for the town too, but we're not able to take advantage of it because of the condition and because it's very difficult to get to. I just put some pictures in there, so those of you who are wondering exactly where we mean, you can go to Goddard Park and you can look across the brook and the dam, but you just can't get to the library from there. And to get to the library from there, you do have to walk all the way around, either on Brotherton Way or along Route 12, which again, I would tell you it's a safety issue to have families and young children walking along Route 12, which is a state highway, with no barriers between the cars and the sidewalk. It's not the best place for young children to be walking to get to programs. We have been working with CMRPC through 2 technical assistance grants that we received, one in 2020 and one in 2021, to develop conceptual plans for this area. There is an interactive survey that we had online. I believe it closed yesterday, and we will be putting together those results. But there was an opportunity to look at and participate as residents in what the vision for Goddard Park and the bridge and the library would be. I put a couple of slides here so you can see the project area for the Mass DOT Auburn Street project. So the project area is right in Drury Square, and what we're talking about on these articles, is to enhance and rejuvenate Goddard Park and the library, which are right near the DOT project area. As you know from past town meeting votes, the Mass DOT is working on the project. We were able to advance that project last year. Thank you for all of your town meeting votes a year ago to allow us to move forward and do the easements for the Auburn Street project, which actually enabled us to secure another $700,000 from the state that we did not anticipate getting. We're putting almost $6 million between the state and grant funding into that area. We also have streetscape and street lighting that will be going into that area as well. And once you'll start to actually see the results of that, and we'll be able to actually advertise, promote, and create a true sense of a downtown utilizing banners and arms off of the street lights. We also were recently applied for and thrilled to receive a $280,000 grant from the Shared Streets Program that is enabling us to do work on Brotherton Way that you can see now. That grant was awarded to us a couple of months ago, and the key was that we have to spend all the funds by May 31st. So I want to acknowledge and thank DPW and the town for finalizing the design and amending a contract so this work could get done, and it will be done by May 31st. This involves, this coordinates with the work that's going on Auburn Street, and it replaces part of the sidewalk, creates a walking and bike path along Brotherton Way. And we do have some slides here. I'm happy to go back if I need to. And the wayfinding project, a number of our residents participated in our wayfinding project. We completed that last year. That was through a grant. We're very excited that we now have a slogan and logo that we will be using in Drury Square, and I think this ties in very well with what we're proposing tonight for the Library Goddard Park Pedestrian Bridge Project, which is, the slogan is Auburn, embracing the past and launching into the future. The projected cost of this project. The total project cost is a little bit over $1 million, and I'll go through that budget in a minute. Again, we received a grant in the amount of $505,000, and we need to come up with a 50% match for this. The most expensive element of this is the pedestrian bridge because it does span over a brook, and obviously when you span over a brook, you've got some engineering challenges that you have to meet. And again, the plan that we have before you tonight is for the $500,000 match for this with no impact to the taxpayer as it is utilizing available funds. Here's the first component of it, is the estimated library sunroom addition cost. The sunroom total costs $310,000. I want to point out this does not include landscaping. This is strictly for the building. We are and will continue to apply for other grants in working with private organizations to see if we can get some involvement with, when this project is done, with the landscaping. We continue to apply for grants for all of these projects, and we will continue to do so because we really believe that the Goddard Park project, which is the next one up here, we're budgeting $200,000 for certain improvements now, but we believe that we're going to have to continue to make additional improvements as we get available funds. So we do have a couple of grant applications that are either pending or about to be submitted, and we also have a couple of requests into the legislature for earmarks in both the Senate and the House budget that would hopefully pass through the legislature and give us additional funding to cover any potential cost overruns in Goddard Park. The cost of the pedestrian bridge, the construction costs are estimated at $420,000, and the permitting and engineering is estimated at $80,000. The total project cost for the bridge is $500,000. So the total estimated project cost of the three components, $310,000 plus $200,000 plus $500,000 is $1,010,000. The grant, excuse me, let me go back to this, the grant that we applied for will pay for 50% of this. So the town will be able to get this work done at a cost to the town of $505,000. So when we had our meeting a couple of weeks ago for town meeting members, and since then a couple of residents have said, well, why do we need to put an addition on the library? People don't use libraries anymore. What is the library doing? It's COVID. We don't need to have the library. And I'm proud to say, and I'm sure the library director would verify what I'm about to say, but our library programs, I'm going to talk about pre-COVID for a moment. The year right before COVID, when the library was open full-time, we had seen an increase from 2016 to 2019 in the number of programs that we offered. And why did we see that increase? Because there's a demand for more programs. So those programs increased 69% over a 4-year period. And the attendance at those programs increased 99%. In 2019, 604 of those 778 programs that we offered were for children. So a sunroom addition will enable us to have an internal reconfiguration of the existing space, which will enable us to enlarge the children's room because we can actually use the sunroom space to move some other program options toward the sunroom. And this will also help us in, if any of you have participated in library programs, you know the minute we announce the program, it gets closed out. We just don't have the room, occupancy-wise, to hold many more people into these programs. So this will enable us to expand our programs. I won't go through all of this, but I want to highlight a couple of things that are really important. The library is valuable, and I can't say that enough. People use the library. Walk-in traffic to the library in 2019, we had over 70,000 people walk into the library in 2019. Again, we offered 778 programs. We had over 12,000 people attend these programs. We have websites that were developed for presentation of information, videotape readings for children, and other things during the shutdown. We had almost 25,000 people log on to that information because they still wanted to participate, but with COVID couldn't actually be there. We offered 47 museum passes, and I would say back in 2016 we offered 3. These museum passes draw people into the library. They come in for the museum passes. It saves the residents and taxpayers when they use the passes, and they also take advantage of being in the library. The library receives about 18,000 telephone and reference questions annually. That was in 2019. And the total circulation in 2019 was 132,000. So what happened during COVID? So the library closed during COVID as far as opening its regular hours, but starting in July, the library started a curbside service. We started off slow, and as we were able to ramp it up, as we were able to figure out how to do this, again, a global pandemic, thankfully we've never had it before, but there were things that we had to do for hygiene and compliance with the state. So starting in July, we began with a slow curbside, and that picked up. And I think it's important to note that between July and this past month, April, 80,567 resources were provided through the curbside program. That's the number of books, DVDs, and CDs loaned from the curbside pickup stations. So 80,000 pieces of material while the library was closed. We also gave and created over 1,400 children's literacy and craft packets that we used during the pandemic to keep children educated and entertained. What is the future of the Auburn Public Library, and why would we be asking to put an addition on it? Post-COVID, as we return to a new normal, it's anticipated that library programs will continue to attract and increase growth in attendees. Again, we had a 69% increase in programs over a 4-year period and a 99% increase in attendance. We expect that to continue. Post-COVID, we also anticipate that total circulation will continue to increase. It was up 8% between 2018 and 2019 alone in 1 year. And the Auburn Master Plan also focuses on the library and its section on the library, which says that the existing facility is underutilized for a community of over 16,000, is undersized for a community of over 16,000 residents, and additional space is needed. I won't go through all of these quotes, but you can see in the master plan that it was clearly identified and approved that this should be the long-term 5-year plan, is to expand space in the library for programming. Again, the Auburn Public Library Strategic Plan in 2020 also, again, worked with residents in the community and came up with their strategies for the library, one of which is to expand the space in the library. So, knowing the background of the library now, what are the benefits of a pedestrian bridge? I think it's important to say here, it's not just a physical connector, although that is a major portion of this, is connecting. It is, someone said it's a bridge to nowhere, and you know, that's an interesting term, but I would tell you it's not a bridge to nowhere. It is a bridge connecting two critical town parcels. It's also, you know, if you can put it this way, it's a bridge to your past here in Auburn, and it's a bridge to the future. This is a bridge that is going to bring people from the library to Goddard Park, to the pond, vice versa, and give the opportunity for utilizing fairly underutilized park and pond area. As you probably know, bridges are social and emotional experiences. People travel all over to see bridges. People like to take walks on bridges. People like to walk on the walking trails we have up behind Pappas because there's a small footbridge up there. People enjoy traveling and visiting and taking their children and grandchildren to a bridge. They want to go fishing. They want to walk over the bridge. They want to have a picnic. That's the other side of a pedestrian bridge. It's not just the connector, but the connector is key. The other part of this is it will be a connector, and it will enable us to have a walking trail that's 0.5 miles when we're done. So part of the walking trail is being done now on Brotherton Way. Part of it is being done on Auburn Street. This would be the final connector that would provide that loop. And as I mentioned earlier, it is also a safety enhancement. We don't want, nor do the families want, to walk their children from the library down Route 12 or around Brotherton Way to get over to the park or the pond. Many of the state grant programs in the last couple of years have focused on connectivity and multimodal transportation, so that is why we keep applying for these grants, because this is the exact type of project the state is trying to invest in. I put this up here to show you, we're not talking a giant car bridge. We're talking a bridge that will literally bridge a space that will enable residents and visitors to get from one public parcel to another public parcel. And there are all different kinds of designs for these bridges. And we'll know more when we go out to bid what type of design we'll be able to afford for this. We do have some preliminary estimates. That's why we came up with the $500,000. But as you can see, bridges they're very popular in Massachusetts. You can Google it, look up bridges. And there are websites that actually just focus on bridges and walking trails and how to get from point A to point B. And there are very few that actually connect a building like we're proposing here. Most of them just connect land to create a walking trail. We're actually saying we feel it should connect to a town facility. So I just want to keep in mind, successful planning is really based on a comprehensive, integrated approach to achieve the community vision that's been identified. It's been identified that the residents of Auburn want to enhance Goddard Park. They want to have access to their library. They want to continue to have the excellent services that we provide. And we're always looking for a way to literally bridge that. And keep in mind also that, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. If you look at each of these projects separately, they're good projects, but when you take them all together, you're really going to have a fantastic project. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed Kazanovich now to just go over the articles and explain. Oh, you've got it? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And I'd like to focus your attention on the town meeting warrant book, pages 76 and 77. Specifically Articles 18 through 24. So Article 18 and 19, as well as 20, repurposes already borrowed funds. These are considered unexpended bond proceeds. So whether it's for this project or some other purpose, this is the only thing we could do with these unexpended bond proceeds. We cannot turn them back to the general fund. It's not permissible. The law requires that we have to amend any unexpended bond proceeds for any other capital purpose that fits the definition under the chapter that is borrowed for. So we are seeking your approval on 18, 19, and 20. As you can see under Article 20, some of those borrowings go back to 2013. We're approaching almost 10 years. Typically, these need to be spent over a 2.5 to a 3-year period. We're well over that. We bring these articles to town meeting every year to repurpose funds so we can spend down on these unexpended bond proceeds. Article 21, these are funds that are already available in the town coffers. It totals $155,394. And it's specified by line, and so we are seeking your approval for those funds. Article 22, we had our free cash certification. Under the financial policy guidelines, we can expend 50% of the net gain. The net gain of free cash from FY20 compared to 19 was a net gain of $1.9 million. We appropriated $780,000 for various purposes at the fall town meeting, leaving a balance of $147,236. That is consistent with our financial policy. Article 23 is requesting of town meeting members to appropriate with a 2/3 vote $80,000 from our town stabilization account. We have about a $3.6 million balance in that account. I can tell you that we're earning well over $80,000 just in interest every year, so if you were to approve Article 23, it would not erode our principal balance in our stabilization account. And finally, Article 24 is asking to approve $25,000 of overlay surplus. In discussions with the chief assessor and our analytical review of the overlay surplus, $25,000 was certified and approved by the assessor's office. We probably have about a $600,000 balance in that account. It's reserved because we have a high percentage of commercial industrial property that may seek qualifying abatements and exemptions during the course of the fiscal year, as well as any pending cases that may be before the appellate tax board currently. So we feel very comfortable certifying that amount of money. So that's what we're asking of our town meeting members, and I'll turn it back to our town manager. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just add one more thing, because we were asked this at the pre-town meeting, so I want to make sure everyone has this information. We were asked how long this project would take, and should we get approvals tonight, what would be the plan for this. We would have to start designing the project over the next couple months. We'd have to start seeking our board and commission approvals. Then we would prepare bid documents, go out to bid, and then start construction. So we believe that this whole thing could probably be done by the end of 2022. So we're about 18 months, approximately. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Let's try to keep the questions short, but let's give everybody a chance to ask one if there is that many questions. Sir, in the second row here.
Hi, my name's Russell Talisman, Precinct 2. One of my questions is, on the library, that's a big asset for any town, so I'm for the library. But what I'm kind of concerned about is who decided to make it a glass Brady room instead of a solid frame construction. From what I know of construction, you're not going to get a lot of longevity out of glass. It's going to require maintenance. A lot of sealing and caulkings will fail. And how are you going to heat that? I heard from Scuttlebutt that you're thinking of incandescent heat in the floors, and that is not a very good idea either, in my opinion, because when it fails, you got to jackhammer up the whole floor. The second part of my question is, quite a few people I talk to like the park idea, they don't like the bridge idea, all these different things. And the way everything is written, we vote for everything. And if we didn't like this section, then how can we disapprove?
Mr. Moderator, I'll answer that question. So to answer your first question, we have looked, and the Board of Trustees looked 10 years ago at a library addition. A library addition stick-built is very expensive. It is much more cost-effective to do a sunroom type addition than an addition that is stick-built with a foundation and roofing, etc. Many municipal facilities across the country are looking at these glass additions in lieu of stick-built. I don't know if you have noticed, but the construction costs right now are out of sight for stick-built. People are paying upwards of $400 a square foot, where it was $90 a square foot about a year ago, pre-COVID. And it's due to limitations on supplies and very difficult to get the supplies for a stick-built. So when we started to look at this, we were trying to find an addition that was affordable, cost-effective, and would provide what we want to do, which is to really open up that back space to the outdoors, to bring in the outdoors, to give people sitting in the library the opportunity to look outside, to maybe look at a community garden, to look at some lovely landscaping. All of those ideas had come out through the strategic plan. The second piece of it, I'm sorry, the second part of the question was, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, so the second part is,
Would you come to the mic, please?
It's all right, okay.
Well, the second piece to the question was, how come it's all mushroomed into one ballot question instead of, because people that might not want the bridge, people might want, just like that. It's like one vote covers it all.
Nope, that's a great question, and I'll repeat it for those who made it. So the question is, why are we seeking approval for a project with 3 phases as opposed to 3 separate projects? And the answer to that is when Ed and myself met with the trustees of the Pappas Foundation, we initially proposed 3 separate projects. We didn't know what type of funding was available. We didn't know what the appetite would be for any of these projects. So we came to the table with 3 projects that had been identified in the community as something that would be important and a priority to the community. And the trustees felt very compelled to ensure that this project was done as a 3-phase project, not separate projects. They believe that they wanted to make an investment in the library, but they only wanted to make an investment in the library if the library could be physically connected to Drury Square. That right now the library sits by itself, it's not really connected to Drury Square, and they were trying to tie the library into Drury Square. So the bridge was actually one of the most important parts of the project that when we met with them. So the project that we were asked to provide to them was an entire project, possibly phasing it because we might not be able to get all of it done at the exact same time. We think we can get most of it other than additional improvements at Goddard Park that we're going to continue to do. So we were asked by the foundation to look at a broad, comprehensive approach. And I think that goes back to actually a slide that I tried to end this with, which is that the foundation, I believe, is doing the right thing as far as a municipal planning opportunity, is to look at the whole, look at the comprehensive project. Don't look at the individual pieces and pick them off, but look at the whole vision for Drury Square and make sure that we're not just funding one piece over here and one piece over here, and we're not bringing that critical connection together. So the grant was applied for on the recommendation of the trustees as a whole project, not as 3 separate projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Largest, Precinct 4. Good ideas. And again, this gentleman, a lot of people I have talked to were gung-ho for the library and the park, but not the bridge. But one of my concerns is after this is all done, what are we gonna do with the goose poop? There's enough of goose poop in them parking lots and that lawn and the grass and around the whole area to fill a 10-wheel dump truck. You can't even walk over there without slipping and falling in it. We got to come up with something. If we're going to beautify and spend all this money on this, got to come up with something about these. Can we put a no goose walking sign? You think would they read that? No. What are we going to do with it? We got to take care of something. I can't see the town spending that much money and they'll be walking across the bridge, pooping everywhere all the way down the whole sidewalk.
Mr. Moderator, if I may answer the question. When we designed this project, those are all elements that we have to look at. You know, it's in the design, it's in the type of materials you use, it's in the type of potential fencing that you use. There are design and architectural elements that can address those things. We haven't got there yet.
Oh, I think it's a lot of money to be slipping and sliding.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Moderator. I agree with what has been said by Julie and Ed about the Drury Square and the bridge and getting the library connected to Drury Square with the Drury Square project. But I'd like to just concentrate really on the library part of it. And what I have to say is really belongs to everything on all of these articles. I'm only speaking once. I got my first library card when I was 5 years old. When I was in the 3rd grade, the elementary school I went to was about a 1/10 of a mile from the library, and once a week they allowed us to leave school and go down to the library and get books. And I also have a doctorate, so I guess maybe there's something to be said for having books and getting to read them. Since I've been in town, I've used the Auburn Public Library. I've seen how many people are there and all the programs and all the little children, and it's great. I used to be there at least maybe once every 7 to 10 days, and then the pandemic came. Now, about 10 years ago, I think, the library trustees came up with a huge plan to reconstruct the Auburn Public Library, and my memory is that the town meeting passed it. And then it went out to the voters of the town, and they rejected it totally. So clearly, this isn't quite a reconstructed library, but it gives us some additional space at that library that goes along with what we already have and goes along with the Goddard Park. And, you know, goodness gracious, what a lucky town we are, because we have the Pappas Foundation. Where in God's name would we be without them? Thank you.
Carl Westerman, I just got to say, this has got to be one of the best things this town has done for the whole town. The schools, everybody, even myself. And where else can we get and give more to the kids to grow up and to learn? You need the books, you need everything. How can we just argue the point at all? All I got to say is congratulations. This is one great deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Westerman. Mr. Platukis, is it?
Bob Platukis, Precinct 1. I love libraries. I agree with everything about the library building. And my question was answered on why they're building a bridge. And I too have heard from people the bridge to nowhere. And I too have seen the bridge in other forms in other towns, and a lot of times kids and their bicycles become a traffic hazard there. And I think it would be here too. I'd like to see the money taken and spent on the library completely. And as far as the Brady Room goes, ask my neighbor about Brady Rooms. He just had to tear his whole one down. He's got to put a whole new structure up. It was beautiful. 20 years it's gone. But my question is this. I saw that sidewalk there and I asked why a bridge? Beautiful sidewalk. If there's a problem with people getting hurt there, they could put a railing up. So my question is, the police chief, how many people have been hurt on that sidewalk? How many accidents have been on that sidewalk in the last year or two? I know Drury Square is dangerous. I was almost killed there last year. So I know Drury Square is a horrible intersection. A lot of accidents there. But what about that sidewalk? It's been said it's dangerous. Let's get the facts. Thank you.
If you give, I'm sorry, to make room for town meeting members in here, we have our department heads upstairs. I think Lieutenant Harrigan is coming down. I would say I don't know if they're going to have those statistics at their fingers. And I just want to be clear, I didn't specify that there were accidents there. I never said that. What I said was it is a concerning place to walk along a state highway, Route 12, on a sidewalk that doesn't have a barrier to the traffic. I specifically, I couldn't tell you if there were accidents there. I would tell you that parents have expressed concern about walking along that sidewalk. Schools have expressed concern about walking along that sidewalk. So we're trying to give alternatives to that, which is part of the reason that we're looking at creating bikeways and walkways along Brotherton Way. So I'm not going to be able to answer the question on what accident statistics are. I think I see Lieutenant Harrigan. I'm trying to see. Yes, she'll, if you can wait and maybe move on to the next question and just give her an opportunity to come down. Through the moderator, while we're waiting for Lieutenant Harrigan, it's hard, I know it's very hard to see, but there was a question up in the back, too.
I thought there was a mic up there.
There is a microphone up there. I don't know if they're working on it.
Well,
but she is on her way down.
they started walking down, so.
No microphone? Okay.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Michael Marin, Precinct 3. I have to admit, when I first saw the numbers for this project, I was skeptical. $1 million, 10. But I think it's smartly designed. And I appreciate the comments that have been shared tonight. I have a quick question on the free cash portion that's allocated, Mr. Kazanovich. If I understood your comments, the amount of free cash that we're utilizing, allocating for this project, is that the total amount of current free cash that we have available? Or is there another portion of free cash? Are we using all of our free cash for that?
No. So our free cash balance, I'm going to use some rough estimates, was about $16 million.
Thank you.
And out of the $16 million, we had a net gain of 1.9 from the prior fiscal year. Our financial free cash policy allows to appropriate up to 50% of the net gain over the prior fiscal year. So that's roughly, it was just shy of $1 million, 900 and some odd thousand. We appropriated $780 at the fall town meeting to fund stabilization as well as OPEB, and there may have been another warrant article, leaving a balance of $147. Okay. So even if we spend the $147, we still had a net gain of $1 million in free cash.
Okay, thank you for that, because I think it was just your final comment when it said that it's reserved on the amount of the 50% that we could utilize, and that would free that up, but it's not utilizing all of our free cash.
Correct.
And I understood it that way, but for others, I want to make sure that we're just not emptying that entire bank. Okay. My only other comment is that there's been some comments about the bridge and the necessity for that piece of the project. I go by Goddard Park every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I imagine like a lot of my neighbors, and I don't give it thought. And that's unfortunate, because that's a pretty significant part of our history. I think this project brings that to light. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Harrigan, I believe, wants to answer a question, so.
To Mr. Botukis, I really don't have accurate statistics to provide you this evening. I'd be more than happy to research them, provide that to town management. Maybe she could reach out to you after that. I don't want to give you any inaccurate information, so I just don't have that number available for you tonight. I don't, in my recollection, no. I don't recall anything.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Yes, sir. Are you speaking? Yes, go ahead.
Doug Nelson, 2nd Precinct. I think the library idea is great and looks like a really good thing for the town. I just want to state that I'm not a huge fan of repurposing funds. I think it would have made a lot more sense to ask for the money up front for these kind of projects. You know, when people voted for that money, you know, in 2017, they voted for that for their specific purposes, and now we're going back and pulling that into other funds. I realize that, it's convenient to take unexpended funds, but I think those should be, we should be voting for the project itself in whole. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mrs. Ethia.
Ellen Ethia, Precinct 5. Along with a lot of other people in this town, I started bringing my boys to the library for a story hour a long, long time ago. I've also brought my grandchildren there. The idea of using that pond as a science lesson for a summer program for the kids in the library sounds really fantastic. And I wish we could think a little bit about the kids in the town. Not every kid plays a sport. Some kids just don't like sports, but they're really interested in science. And maybe playing in the water and looking for pond life would really intrigue them. And I think we need to think of that. And I brought up the idea about safety. If I were to be a person in a library and I wanted to have a group of 10 little 5-year-olds and take them down to the pond, I do not want to walk on Southbridge Street with them, even if I had 7 chaperones with me. There's always one little kid who's going to start running, and it's not safe. And if we're going to do this and we're going to spend this money, we need to have a safe place. That bridge is the only thing that ensures safety in that area. And as a final note, I noticed that part of the funding comes from the Norma Card Trust. And it was mentioned at the pre-town meeting that it was the interest from the money that Norma left when she passed away quite a few years ago. Norma was an absolutely wonderful lady. Every spring I plant flowers on her grave, and I miss her terribly. And she would absolutely want her money to go for something like this because it's serving the town, it's serving the children, it's serving the adults, and it's serving history. And she was a great person, a great history buff for the town of Auburn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ethia. Well, let's see if there's anybody else that wants to speak first. You can second it. I just want to see, give everybody a chance on this. This is a big article. I'm sure nobody has any more questions, Tom. Okay? You got a quick one? Go ahead. Who has the point of order? I understand all that. But I'm also supposed to give everybody a shot at this if I can. I'd answer in a question. So this will be the last question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly support the addition to the library. Most of the presentation was pointing out the importance of the library to the town. Absolutely 100% on board with that. But I'm looking at this, and between 18, 19, and 20, we get to about $159,000 in funding just on those. If we were to add something else in here that we have to, as we've been told, need to spend in some way, we could easily get to $200,000, save the town $300,000, and still get the addition to the library, which is very important. But what I'm hearing is $200,000 for the library improvement, $800,000 for the improvements for the 2,500 feet of walking trail, the improvements to the park, all these other pieces, which are great. Beautification is nice. I agree the library is more important, though. And unfortunately, this is an all or nothing kind of position the way it's written. So we either vote to fix the library, or we vote to spend $500,000 on all the other parts along with it. Just want to point that out. Thank you.
Before you leave, sir, could you just identify yourself because we didn't get the name up here.
Apologies. Tom Kais, Precinct 4.
Thank you. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. We are ready to vote.
No.
Yeah, we're voting.
Wait a minute. Are we voting on moving the question? We do have to.
I didn't take that motion.
You didn't take it?
No. I didn't, we're voting on the question, not on moving it. We're voting on the question.
Who made the motion?
We're voting on Article 18. The light is on now, please vote. It's a two-thirds vote. The light is now out, voting has ended. This has passed 67 to 9. Article 19. To see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose a portion of CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 1st, 2018 town meeting, building rehab of the Central Administration Building, account number 302019-581962, as follows. Authorize the amount of $10,000 to be used for the Goddard Park Library Project or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion on 19?
I move that the town meeting vote to repurpose a portion of the CIP funds by amending Article 4 of the May 1st, 2018 town meeting building rehab of Central Administration Building, account number 302019-581962, as follows. Authorize the amount of $10,000 to be used for the Goddard Park Library Project.
Is there a second? You got a second? We have a second. Any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. We are ready to vote. The light is now on. We are voting. Voting has ended. The answer, excuse me, the question passes. It's a two-thirds vote, it passes. Question, not question. That's number 19. Number 20. Article 20, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose unexpended bond proceeds as shown herein for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at the Goddard Memorial Park as follows. Library windows, 302013-581365, $1,256.45. Library windows, 302013-581376, $21,076.91. Library HVAC, 302013-581379, $34,518. Library foyer, 302017-581738, $9,826. Library furniture, 302012-581235, $509.49. Library interior paint, 302013-581368, $182.49. or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 20 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. We are ready to vote. The light is on. Please vote. The voting period is over. It passes. That was a two-thirds vote. Article 21, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $155,394.17 from available funds as shown herein, with the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at the Gordon Memorial Park. Sale of real estate, 261017, $10,040.47. Mass 10 Pro Tantral Award, 261031, $6,314.40. Sale of the Mary D. Stone and Julia Bancroft Schools, 261-290-05, $100,000. A Solar Legal Reimbursement, 261-290-14, $10,000. FEMA Snow 2018 Storm, 211-290-019, $16,127.30. Norma Card Expendable Trust, 82-111, $12,912, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Mr. Baker.
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 21 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Get the second.
There is a second. Are there any questions? Well, not seeing any then, we're ready to vote. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is on. Please vote. The light is now off. Voting has stopped. The article passes. That was a majority. Article 22, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $147,236 from free cash for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at Gordon Memorial Park, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion? Mr. Baker.
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $147,236 from free cash for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge and enhancements at Goddard Memorial Park.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. Please vote. The light is on. Please vote. The light is out. The voting has ended. It passes. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $80,000 from the town stabilization fund for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at Gordon Memorial Park, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $80,000 from the town stabilization fund for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at Gordon Memorial Park.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. Please vote now. The light is on. The light has gone out. Voting has ended. This one also passes 61 to 11. 24, Article 24, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $25,000 from the overlay surplus for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at the Gordon Memorial Park, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mr. Baker?
Yes, there is, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $25,000 from overlay surplus for the purpose of constructing an addition onto the Auburn Public Library, erecting a bridge, and enhancements at Gordon Memorial Park.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The light is on. Please vote. The light is out. Voting has ended. It passes. That was a majority. Article 25, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $10,000 from general fund revenues for munis payroll training, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion, Mr. Baker?
There is, Mr. Sensel. I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $10,000 from general fund revenues for munis payroll training.
Is there a second? No second? Oh, you got one? Oh, she got a second. Okay. Any question? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those in favor. We're going to use the light. When the light goes on, please vote. Thank you. The light is on now. We are voting. The light has gone out, the voting period is over. This one also passes. Article 26, we're on page 78. To see if the town meeting will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8J, creating a commission on disability or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8J, creating a commission on disability.
Is there a second? There is a second. Are there any questions? Not seeing any then? The voting period will begin when the light goes on. The light is on, please respond. The light is off, the voting period has ended. It passes. Article 27. To see if the town meeting will vote to sell a small triangular parcel of land consisting of 1,014 square feet, more or less, to Travis Lucia for $116. This small parcel is a remnant from the land sold to Penrose Properties, LLC, as part of the Julia Bancroft development. Mr. Lucia's property at 195 Boyce Street abuts this small parcel of land. Presently, a fence owned by Mr. Lucia is located on this small area of town land. The value has been set by the town assessor or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to sell a small triangular parcel of land consisting of 1,014 square feet, more or less, to Travis Lucier for $116. This small parcel is a remnant from the land sold to Penrose Properties, LLC, as part of the Julia Bancroft development. Mr. Lucia's property at 195 Boyce Street, Auburn, abuts the small parcel of land. Presently, a fence owned by Mr. Lucia is located on this small area of town land. The value has been set by the town assessor.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Mr. Largess.
Mr. Largess, Precinct 4. How long has this fence been up? And has Mr. Lucia been maintaining this property right along? And for how long has he been maintaining it?
Through the moderator, I will look up for you how long the property has been in this particular owner's hands. It has not been that long. I will tell you that the fence has been there since an earlier owner. The issue isn't the fence as much. I mean, there is a fence on the property. The issue is also just the corner of the setback of the house is very close to the town property. The history of this, briefly, is that the deed that goes back to, 1920 or so, had one particular lot line in it. When the property was surveyed for the town to sell the parcel to Penrose Properties, the Julia Bancroft parcel, it became very clear that the deed had, that this particular, there was an encroachment on the town property, that the deed through the surveyor was correct in that a corner of this fence is on town property.
So where was the mistake made with the surveying of the property back years ago?
Probably over 100 years ago. I couldn't tell you. I
So
can only tell you that the survey that was done now, the survey that was done a couple of years ago is accurate.
So for 100 years, that piece of property has been under the care of the individuals who maintained and purchased that house.
I think what you're probably trying to get at is adverse possession. Adverse possession laws don't apply to municipalities or government land.
Say, if he's maintained it and taken care of it for years, why are we even selling it to him? Just give it to him. You know,
Where, through the moderator, we can't give a property under procurement laws. We have to sell it for the value. So because the value is under $30,000, or actually $50,000, we don't have to go out to bid for it. The value of it is $116. We're not allowed under the law to just give a piece of parcel to an owner. We have to follow Mass General Law.
thank you.
Anybody else? Not seeing anybody's hand up? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. It's on. Please vote now.
I can see this down here, I can't see it there.
The light is out. Voting has ended. It passes. Article 28, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend Section 1, authority and purpose of the Auburn zoning bylaw as printed in the warrant. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 28 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions?
Where is he?
Oh, John, there you are. I was wondering where you were.
John Stencil, Precinct 5. Could I have a short version to what this means?
Mr. Menard.
Mr. Moderator, this proposed zoning change was recommended as part of a zoning diagnostic conducted by Central Mass Regional Planning Commission as part of a grant about 2 years ago. The grant, they reviewed all the zoning bylaws and made some recommended changes. This language simply modernizes some of the authority and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Does that answer your question?
You all set with that, John? Thank you. Any other questions? We got one way back there. I can't see who it is. Hold on.
Hi, Dennis Natoli, Precinct 1. I'm assuming you're doing this just to mirror the 40A.
the town planner.
Correct, on the 48. Just a question of why I seem to encourage the housing. We're adding, first of all, income levels, but you're taking out to avoid undue concentration of the population. Why are we, because that's in the 40A as well. They added the other one pretty recently. Just wondering why we're taking out one and adding one.
It's just kind of modernization of the language. The modern planning kind of wants creative use of land space, and to restrict it to certain themes is not generally how planning is done these days. It's just kind of modernizing what the intent of the zoning is. Restricting density is not really the intent, I guess.
Okay, I mean, just that it's in the 40A, and you added one that they added just recently. Just a question of why you did that.
The 40A is a state law, correct?
Right,
Is that what you're about?
the zoning act, right.
Yeah, we didn't look at specifically at the state bylaws. This is just for the town's zoning. And again, this is just a recommendation by the zoning diagnostic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, then I guess we're ready to vote. When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is now on. Please vote. The voting light is out. Voting has stopped. This one also passes. Now we're on 29. Article 29. To see if the town meeting will vote to remove the following chapters in their entirety from the Auburn zoning bylaws. Chapter 14, generous hazardous material. Chapter 15, earth removal regulations. Chapter 16, earth filling. Chapter 17, stormwater management. And Chapter 18, stench energy code, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to remove the following chapters in their entirety from the Auburn zoning bylaw. Chapter 14, general hazardous material. Chapter 15, earth removal regulations. Chapter 16, earth filling. Chapter 17, stormwater management. And Chapter 18, stretch energy code.
Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions? Mr. Dufour.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. And looking at what's coming ahead with an article or two ahead, can somebody help me understand why we're voting to eliminate these sections of code and replace it with something else afterwards? What happens if we eliminate this code but don't approve the subsequent code in the later article?
Mr. Moderator, the proposed zoning bylaws to be removed are actually duplicates. They already exist in the town's general bylaws. This was kind of an oversight when they were renumbered a few years ago, and removing the duplicate bylaws and the zoning is just cleaning up the zoning. The proposed stormwater town general bylaw that's on next will strictly make changes to the already existing general bylaw and won't affect the zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Menard. Any other questions? Okay. Not seeing any then? When the voting light goes on, please use your keypad to respond. The voting light is on right now. Please vote. The voting light is off. Voting has stopped. Article 29 passed. Article 30, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $6,675 from perpetual care for the new maintenance equipment for the cemetery division, including a split boom trimmer and attachments, spring trimmer, 2 hedge trimmers, 2-week rental of a skid steer and Harley rake attachment, and 2 weeks rental of screening plant, or act on anything relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move that the town meeting vote to appropriate $6,675 from perpetual care for new maintenance equipment for the cemetery division, including a split boom trimmer and attachments, spring trimmer, 2 hedge trimmers, 2-week rental of a skid steer and Harley rake attachment, and 2-week rental of a screening plant.
Is there a second? You got the second? You got the second? There is a second. Any questions? I don't see any questions. When the voting light goes on, please vote. No, I know. The light just went on. The light is out, voting has stopped. This one also passes. Article 31, to see if the town meeting will vote to amend Chapter 15 of the Town of Auburn General Bylaws entitled Stormwater Management as printed in the warrant. Is there a second?
No, there is a motion though. And I guess you don't want me to read these 40 pages, so I move that the town meeting vote to approve Article 31 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? There is a second. When the voting light goes on for the last time, please vote. Huh?
Was the intent for me to make the presentation before the vote?
Julia's?
Okay.
Oh, anybody have a question on that?
There's no questions. There's no questions.
All right. Great. Mr. Moderator, so I'm going to give a presentation on the intent and the purpose behind the changes to this bylaw. All right, great. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Eilish Corey. I am the new Senior Civil Engineer at the Department of Public Works. And this bylaw is something that I've been working on for the past year. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background because, as you've noticed, it is 20 pages. It's quite a lot. So we wanted to make sure you understood why we were making these changes and what the end result is going to be. So really, the impetus for all of this is that there are new federal regulations related to stormwater that have been passed on to the town. And we have a deadline of June 30th of this year to make those changes, and we could potentially be facing enforcement actions for not doing them. So to give you a background on why these changes are coming through, stormwater is something that falls from the sky and is something we are concerned about because of the pollution and also the flooding implications of it. In recent years, there's been a buildup of pollutants from stormwater that have concentrated in our local water bodies to the point where we really can't deal with them in a cost-effective manner anymore. So in recent years, we've turned to a new way of dealing with stormwater in a more sustainable manner. And that's through the use of natural processes, such as using treatment through vegetation, as well as groundwater infiltration. So in support of this new sustainable method of stormwater management, what is called an MS4 permit was handed to us. And this permit is jointly administered at the federal level by the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as at the state level by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. There are 260 municipalities in Massachusetts who have this permit. It's all the towns that have some sort of color on the map here. And this permit went into effect on July 1st, 2018. And unfortunately, several aspects of the permit have been held up in courts, including the portion that has to do with these bylaw changes, which is why we're just bringing them to you now, 3 years after the permit's really been in effect. So there are 3 portions of the permit that are going to be addressed through these bylaw changes. It's not addressing them fully. There is more we have to do as a town to address them, but it's addressing certain portions of it. And that has to do with stormwater management during construction, what's done to maintain the infrastructure following construction, as well as the way that the infrastructure is designed to treat phosphorus, which is considered a major pollutant in Auburn. So we do have this existing bylaw, which is under the general bylaws, Chapter 14. It was put in place for a previous iteration of the permit, and it authorizes what's called a land disturbance permit, as well as the creation of a stormwater committee. And the stormwater committee provides the authorization to enforce what's in the bylaw, as well as to create regulations for the administration of the land disturbance permit. So although this bylaw was put into place some years ago, it was never actually enforced, and now as a result of the update to the permit, it's now somewhat outdated. So again, we would like to update the bylaw to meet these new federal requirements, which we are obligated to do by June 30th, or else we could potentially face enforcement actions by the Environmental Protection Agency. The other reason to update the bylaw is that the Stormwater Committee has been meeting somewhat regularly over the past year, developing a draft set of draft regulations. And those regulations have been worded a certain way that currently does not jive with the way the existing bylaw is written. So it is 20 pages of edits, but really those can be distilled down into 4 general categories. One is to update key definitions, to update a more modern approach to stormwater management, to remove contradictory or duplicate language that is in the existing bylaw, as well as to remove a lot of technical references and detailed procedural references into the regulations. And this just means that if in future years there are more updates to design standards, that we would be able to update them within the regulations without having to come back to town meeting on a regular basis to do so. The last update we would like to make is to change the thresholds for when a land disturbance permit is required. And that is going to put us in step with our neighboring communities who also have this type of bylaw in place. Currently, the way it's written, Auburn is more conservative, so we would require this permit in more instances than our neighbors would, which puts us at a disadvantage when it comes to developers who are looking for where they should do construction. So if these bylaw changes go into effect, the follow-up would be for the Stormwater Committee to meet and vote in regulations. It would then be up to the Department of Public Works to administer this permit, as well as create the educational documents and application process that developers would have to go through. And we're currently in the process of ironing out those details. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, let's... yes, Mr. Dufour.
So, Tom Dufour, Precinct 5. What are the fines and levies that we would be subject to if we don't pass this here tonight?
Through the moderator, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it really depends upon the opinion of EPA about whether or not you intended to meet the permit's obligations and whether or not it's a criminal or a non-criminal. And that really has to do with, again, whether we knew we were purposefully breaking the law when we did it. If you look at the most extreme, it can run thousands of dollars a day. But at the most basic level, it could be something like EPA handing us a what's called a consent decree that basically outlines more stringent measures that we would have to take, or else they would start levying those fines.
Any other questions? Then when the voting light goes on, please vote. It's on, please vote now. When it goes off, it will be end of voting. The light is out. It passes. Mr. Baker?
Move to dissolve.
Second. We have a second. All those in favor? Aye.